Really much appreciated that you have come to the session, Partnerships for Progress, Upholding Labor Rights of Persons with Disabilities in the Asia-Pacific region. My name is Jürgen Menze. I'm a disability inclusion specialist at the International Labour Organization, the ILO, and I'm also the coordinator of the ILO Global Business and Disability Network, which, together with the UN Working Group on Business and Human Rights and the UN Economic and Social Commission for Asia Pacific, ESCAP, has organized this session. Just maybe for those who would appreciate a physical description, I'm a middle-aged white man with a beard, white shirt, and a blue jacket today. So, with me today, I will say a little bit more about what we try to do in this session, but just to also introduce quickly, and then of course I will introduce them again when it's their turn. We have an amazing panel with us today. On my right, we have Saowalak Thongkuay. She's a steering committee member of the ASEAN Disability Forum. Thanks so much for joining us today. Next to Saowalak, we have Carrie Chow. She's an accessibility evangelist at Atos, one of the company members of the Global Business and Disability Network. Then on my left, we have Nantanoot Suwannawut, and I apologize for any mispronunciations. She's a director of international cooperation at the Department of Empowerment of Persons with Disabilities here in Thailand. And then next to Apple, we have Krishna Shah. He's the executive director of the UN Global Compact country network in Nepal. So thanks so much to all of you here, also the panelists, for joining us, and of course for you, joining us today. Now, why do we have this session? It's always good to start with a why. First, we need to recognize that people with disabilities are a huge group in society. Here in the Asia-Pacific regions, hundreds of millions of persons with disabilities are there, sometimes with non-obvious, non-visible disabilities, so we might not even know if somebody has a disability or not. A common experience, however, is that people with disabilities experience less favorable outcomes when it comes to labor market outcomes and in society at large. We know that labor market inactivity rates are higher, unemployment rates are higher, and when people with disabilities are in employment, they also experience typically worse conditions, including a disability wage gap. The ILO research department put out, for example, last year a paper that shows the evidence that even when people with disabilities are formally employed, they earn less than those without disabilities. So the exclusion and systemic barriers in the labor market prevent people with disabilities to fully participate in the labor market, and business has a leading role already and can of course always get more active in addressing these systemic barriers together with partners like government, trade unions, and of course civil society, most prominently organizations of persons with disabilities. And the systemic barriers are manifold: physical accessibility, digital accessibility, but also legislation that might be not conducive. But in the end, it always comes back to attitudinal barriers. So when you have a more inclusive mindset, I think a lot of these systemic barriers can be addressed, not automatically, with a lot of advocacy and persistence, but I think in the end, we need to change also awareness, but we don't have to wait until everybody's fully aware. That's not what I'm saying. But awareness goes hand in hand with the practical solutions, of which we will hear a few also today. Now, this session is of course part of the Business and Human Rights Forum here in Asia-Pacific region. And to give the context to this, of course, we have on the one side what applies to business, and the UN guiding principles on business and human rights are also, of course, talking about non-discrimination and doing not only no harm. In our case, what we do in the Global Business and Disability Network is not do harm, do good. And for us, it means employ people with disabilities, provide equal opportunities for career progression, and provide decent work opportunities like you do also for persons without disabilities. From the disability rights perspective, of course, we have the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, which those who have signed it, almost all UN countries, member states, has a particular article on work and employment, Article 27. And of course, there's also the role of government to make it easier for business to include people with disabilities in their policies and procedures, including when it comes to employment. We need, of course, also in this forum remind ourselves that as part of human rights due diligence, disability need to be an integral part. So when you engage in human rights due diligence processes, discussions, don't forget about people with disabilities. They need to be included. They're a huge group and still very much marginalized around the world, including in this region. Now, human rights, disability justice, these are good arguments to do better in business on disability inclusion. At the same time, there's a clear case, business case. It shows that when companies are flexible enough, inclusive enough, they are more competitive overall. Because if you are able to accommodate people with disabilities, if you promote accessibility, it does not only benefit persons with disabilities. It benefits all employees in an organization, in an employer, and it just makes it much more effective compared to those who have a very rigid and non-inclusive approach. So the case we're trying to make here is that if you work on disability inclusion, accessibility, it's not only because it will benefit persons with disabilities. You will create better, more robust and more effective companies because you're also able to address problems and react more flexibly in times of crisis. Now, like we have here today in the Global Business and Disability Network, we have both businesses and business allies. In the end, we try to make it easier in the Global Business and Disability Network for companies to include people with disabilities in their policies, procedures, especially when it comes to employment, but business can't do it alone. There are amazing companies in our network. One of the companies represented here, Atos, but we also need to work in partnership, and that's why the session is called Partnerships for Progress. It's a joint responsibility and joint commitment to make labor markets around the world, including Asia-Pacific, disability inclusive, and with that also efficient labor markets where everybody deserves a fair chance. Just quickly on the GBDN, the Global Business and Disability Network, just to put that also in context, we currently have 43 multinational enterprises in the network, including Atos. At the same time, at country level, we have more than 45 national business and disability networks, one of them represented here through Krishna in Nepal. And we have a few non-business allies in that network. I'm mentioning this because maybe you want to learn more about, so a bit of self-promotion, but if you want to learn more about the Global Business and Disability Network, Google us or just put businessanddisability.org into your browser and see if you're representing a multinational enterprise, always happy to welcome you on board. If you're active in one country only, see if we can work through a national business and disability network or get you involved if you're a civil society. Now with that said, just to give you an idea of what to expect in terms of the flow of the session, I will ask 2 rounds of questions. In each round, I will ask 1 question to each of the panelists, and then we should have some time for Q&A with you, the in-person audience here today. Now, let's start with Saowalak. So, Saowalak, you represent the disability rights community here today, and there's a slogan, nothing about us, without us, when we talk about disability inclusion. And from your perspective, what are the common misconceptions? I was talking about awareness, we need to raise awareness. So what are the common misconceptions, actually, when we talk about people with disabilities, and how have you tried to address these misconceptions, these stereotypes, when you work with companies?
Thank you very much. You know, this question is very classical question since 1981, when the UN General Assembly adopted the first UN remarkable decade of persons with disability and its World Program of Action year later to challenge these misconceptions. So first, Society always, misunderstand that person with disability is a small group. It is very rare to find persons with disability around the world. But in fact, persons with disability around the world constitutes 15% of persons without disability worldwide. And most of them are a part of every community and workplaces. And second misconception, disability is only a personal and medical problems. Person with disability actually results from the interactions between a person and barriers. For instance, policies, barrier in the policies, attitudinal barriers, and inaccessible design. So we need to remove those barriers to enhance the meaningful participation. And next, society always perceive that there are in the world only visible disability. But in fact, many persons, hold the identity of invisible impairments, including like chronic pain, psychosocial impairment, neurodivergent impairment. But they are all invisible, and they are a part of workplaces. And then persons with disability cannot make their own decisions. But in fact, all of us, persons with disability, are a part of human being. We are a citizen of our own country. So therefore, all persons with disability have a legal capacity on an equal basis with others. But we need a support to make the decision. We don't need substitutions decision making. We deny, substitute decision making deprives our legal capacities of all persons with disability. So next, persons with disability are asexuals. They don't have sexual identities. So they should not marry. They should not be a parent. But in fact, we are as other human beings. So persons with disability are not homogeneous groups. We are diverse amongst human beings around the world. So we need support. And also the practical measures to stop forced sterilization. So forced sterilization and forced, decision making are discrimination and violate human rights and human being and its legal capacity. And children with disability, and this is the perceptions of society, the children with disability can't learn in mainstream schools because it is difficult for them, to understand a difficulty topics. And it is difficulty for the school and teachers to take care of children with disability. But as from the misconception from the first point, these enabling barriers are the most challenged. Attitude among these enabling barriers, attitudinal barriers is the root cause of discrimination that prevents children with disability to study in inclusive school. And we know that inclusive education improves learning and reduces stigma barriers. That I already mentioned that stigma and barrier always form, produce, from attitudes and environments, not in individual impairment or in individual capabilities. And how about misconceptions specifically in workplace? I would like to make a clear cut. Yeah, in general, yeah, in the first part, it is the misconception in general. But in workplaces, employees with disability are less productive comparing with employees without disability. But the fact, the barriers, the workplace are, full of barriers, and there is no reasonable accommodations provided. So that's why performance is, less than persons without disability. One, the adjustment, reasonable accommodations are considered. The performance is comparable with persons without disability. And the second point is, providing reasonable accommodation and adjustments are very expensive and difficult. But in fact, if we plan it from the beginning, there are no costs or a little cost or nothing. But the bigger, list is failing to accommodate or provide reasonable accommodation turn to, a high percentage of turnover and lost talent. And next, treating everyone exactly the same is fairness. Okay, we don't have any policy to exclude persons with disability. Yeah, our policy targeted a person with disability, and also we have the equal strategy named equal. But we don't recognize reasonable accommodation. We don't recognize, the company does not have the policy to track the diversity of persons with disability and to provide reasonable accommodation and support, advisor and support decision making. And from the international standard, particular the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disability, the denying to provide reasonable accommodation is a kind of discrimination. And next, the terminologies that society always, apply. Wheelchair bound, the disabled, invalid, what else? These terms, we know that the terminology has a power and convey connotation. When we love someone, we use a very beautiful and softly word. But when we hate someone, what word do we apply for? That's why we have the many hate speech. So we promote person first and identity affirming language. For instance, person using the word person with disability instead of wheelchair, disabled person or invalid, etc. And persons with disability are mainly a charity case. So, our country has the quota system. We should follow the quota system because the company cannot, break down the law, and it is for the company benefit. We apply a quota system, but there is no assumption about reasonable accommodation. There is no, any kind of, the process to understand a variety of diversity of persons with disability and how to adjust workplace to welcome persons with disability to be able to work and to perform the best, to perform the best productive that is benefit to the business. And persons with disability are more likely to be perpetrators of violence. You know why? The evidence around the world shows persons with disability face a high risk of being targeted, especially women and girls, underscoring the need to confront stigma in workplaces. So, equal pay, CRPD promote the equal pay for the equal work of the equal for the equal value. But from the research, persons with women with disability around the world still receive, a lower rate of payments than men with disabilities. And the last one might be, the digital is automatically accessible, but not true. The digital is automatically accessible, but I don't have time to answer the second part of question, what strategy that OPD try to update them in working with the company. Maybe I can elaborate with the second part of my presentation. Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Saowalak. And I think, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I think it's important to highlight what you said. You didn't use terminology, but this social model of disability, that is the responsibility of the environment to become inclusive and not for the person with this disability to adapt to the environment. I think it's a key message I think that you delivered. So thanks so much. So now moving to Carrie. So Atos, I mentioned, is one of the more than 40 multinational enterprise members in the Global Business and Disability Network of the ILO. And the network of the ILO was also chaired by your company in the last 2 years, in 24 and 23. So, and then the natural question comes, why and how is making Atos disability inclusion and accessibility a top priority?
Right. Hello, everyone. So very proud to be representing Atos here. Also very proud that Atos has chaired the Global Business Disability Network for 23-24. I think one of the things that we do recognize that it is very important that maybe I take a step back. So Atos is a digital services company, and we have offices in 69 countries and 70,000 people. When you hire anybody, you do hire people for their skills, for their capabilities. And I think on this note, we do recognize that when you hire someone, you need to give somebody the workplace that they can thrive and they can work. So we do have also colleagues with disabilities, and working in the space of digital, it's also very important that when we make a digital workspace, the digital workplace has to be accessible as well. With this, we are able to tap on all the true capabilities of everyone so that everyone can thrive. They can work things, use the tools and all in different ways to help themselves be better at their job, let's say, be more productive, more efficient, and this can help bridge that gap. And I think one of the two words which Jürgen mentioned earlier, advocacy and persistence. This is one of the things that is, it's not easy. It's still an uphill for us even. So we've been in this business for like 20 years. So we help our clients improve their workplace. So not only we do it for ourselves, right? We help the clients as well. And even having been in this space for such a long time, we still have to continuously raise the awareness. And so therefore we celebrate the Global Accessibility Awareness Day every year. And then in December 3rd, we also celebrate the International Day of Persons with Disabilities to help raise awareness, because when you have 70,000 people, not everyone is aware of these needs here. So it has to be a continuous thing. And also in digital, everything changed. I mean, we all know right now, right, with AI and how things are changing and moving. What we have at Atos is that we make sure that in this workplace that we have, anybody who needs certain tools to bridge the gap and all, they are able to request for it. So you don't need to specially, like for example, if I need a certain screen reader, we have them in something what we call assistive technology catalog. So people who need that, or they need a certain magnifier, or for example, narrator tools and things like that. They can just go into our IT system, just click and select whatever they want, and then they can download it and use it. So I think from that perspective, Atos, recognizing this need and this difficulty in getting people on board is also one of the probably driving factors that we are part of the Global Business and Disability Network, because when you know how to do things, you can actually share the best practice with other companies and help bring people on board. So actually it is like, it's really, really not that difficult or not that expensive. It's a matter of awareness. So, and I think companies who don't embark or have an accessible workplace and all is, in my personal view, I don't think they deliberately made it that way. Probably they are not aware of it. So raising awareness is key, and showing people how it is done is important. So on our front, on our side, so it's not just a workplace in a sense. It has to be a systematic change in everything. In procurement, in hiring, marketing and communications. So your website, is it accessible? Are you going to put videos, for example, without captions? So these kind of things, right? It is not a major change in the things, this little touch in there, and you know, like we've been, you know, talking about it here. It's not difficult, it's not expensive, so just put it in so it will benefit everybody. And being a digital services company, we really want to use technology to bridge this gap, to help bridge this gap as well. And to, you know, right now, being a member as well of GBDN, we also at the Atos.net, that's our website. You can also see that we have an accessibility statement in there. And inside the statement, it leads to our policy. It's not like, you know, 20, 30 pages long or so. It's simple. People can understand it. We use simple language, easy language and all. Therefore, it is also something that we can show our clients. And why is it important for us? We are in the business, and we are not only just in the business, we are in a very competitive business. In the IT, in the digital world, it's exceptionally competitive, but I always tell my sales people, my sales colleagues, I say, you know, whatever proposal you put out there, and you tell people that, hey, we also do accessibility. Digital accessibility, this is how we can help. And then, a lot of people were not aware. They say, oh, Atos, you do this as well. I say, we not only do this, we've been doing this for like 20 years, right? So I think it's also an eye-opener to in the competitive space to tell people that, okay, yes, you sell digital services. I mean, my competitors, they all sell the same thing, but we have something more here, right? So I think it really benefits the business. Yeah, so just some notes from me here.
Thanks so much, Carrie, and thanks so much for also using language that businesses, whoever is from business here, can resonate with, right? It is a competitive advantage to work on inclusion and accessibility. It makes sense for business. And thanks. Sharing is all what we try to do, facilitate in the Global Business and Disability Network. So thanks for sharing how you in Atos do it. Other companies also share how they do this inclusion work in our network. So let's now hear from Krishna on the very left here on the panel. Krishna. So you're representing from Nepal, the UN Global Compact country network there, and as executive director of that network in Nepal, you decided to take the lead on establishing a national business and disability network in your country. As I mentioned, there are more than 45 of these national business and disability networks already in the world. So why did you decide, as UN Global Compact country network, to take the lead in establishing such a national business and disability network?
Thank you, Jürgen. My name is Krishna Shah. Once again, I am also a middle-aged man, maybe a little older. Clean-shaven, no beard, unlike Jürgen. Olive complexion, black hair. Let me see, a light blue shirt and dark blue coat, khaki pants. Well, first of all, thank you so much for being here this afternoon. Like Jürgen said, it's lunchtime, but I think we're safe now. I counted 75 plus people. Yesterday, I came in here around the same time. There were 5 people in the room, and I was like, oh my goodness, we're doomed tomorrow. But this is great. So thank you again for making time during your lunch to come and listen to us on this very, very important topic of disability, and as the title of this session says, partnerships. We at the Global Compact, and just, you know, for the interest of introducing the Global Compact here to every one of you, we're the wing of the United Nations that looks after private sector. So we're not a UN agency, but we are a UN initiative. We are a membership-based organization where private sector companies like Atos can come in and join. They pay a membership fee. Thank you. And in Atos' case, they paid a membership fee not only to the Global Compact, but also to the Global Business and Disability Network. So they paid twice. So if every company in the world were like Atos, then the world would be a better place already. But we still have a lot of work to do. In the case of Nepal, where the Global Compact itself chose to host the Business and Disability Network as part of the ILO, we did it because there was no one else doing it. The ILO had been trying to launch it in Nepal for, I think, 3 or 4 years already through the various business associations that were available. And in 2022, in our foray of working in the field of disability, we said, if no one else is going to do it, we will do it in a year. And lo and behold, in 2023, we stepped in and took the baton. We are in no sense experts on disability, but we catalyze partnerships. And this is what I said in Singapore as well, where we were 2 days ago with Jürgen at the ILO APAC Regional Disability Conference. Partnerships, I believe, are super important in pushing the agenda of disability. Mainstreaming was my takeaway word at the Singapore conference. And what that means is disability is, or can be, if it's not already, a sustainability initiative. We talk about gender. We talk about environment, human rights. I mean, this is the BHR or RBHR conference in Bangkok right now. We should not treat disability with any less importance. That is the key message that we teach and learn at the Global Compact with private sector, not only in Nepal, not only in the region, but all over the world. I'm quite happy to see that the ILO, the Business and Disability Network led by Jürgen at the ILO, is embracing more partnerships with organizations like the Global Compact and other players in this field to promote disability inclusion in the workplace. So I would like to end in my 4 minutes that have been allocated by saying these types of partnerships are key. I believe they are the way forward. We don't have to be experts, like Ms. Saowalak said. Reasonable accommodation does not have to be difficult, but people are apprehensive of it because they don't understand it, right? So it can be easy. We can break it down. And how do we do it? With partnerships, with collaboration, and that is what we're trying to do at the Global Compact in the private sector. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Partnerships, yeah, look, and I think it's an important message that you bring. No, we need political allies and technical expertise. When they go hand in hand, I think we can achieve a lot together. One very important perspective in this discussion, of course, is still missing, the government perspective. So, Apple, we have you here representing government, so we know that business cannot work in isolation on whatever topic. Also not when it comes to the employment of persons with disabilities. So the question to you, how can governments support companies in making the labor rights of persons with disabilities a reality? I'll move my mic just over to you, so it's just in front of you.
Okay, thank you.
They will hear you okay.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. First of all, thanks for having me. I'm representing the government and the Department of Empowerment of Persons with Disabilities. That is the national organization responsible for any disabilities matters, including employment promotion here in Thailand. And to answer your questions, there are a couple of factors need to be considered. First of all, of course, since we are a government, we should provide the legislation and then policies to support the private sectors. Like here in Thailand, we also we have the sector dedicated to the promotion of employment of persons with disabilities, and also these should provide like an options, right? We have like section 33 to hire, not hire. We have go to 34 to pay the levy, not paying the levy. We offer again section 35, which is great, give the flexibility to the entrepreneurs and the employers to hire a person with disabilities. And also this legislation apply compliant with the international instruments. Of course, just now you talk about the CRPD. We have the Article 27, right? Everyone know that we need to promote the employment here. And the next one is about the incentive for employers. So everyone loves incentives, right? So tax reduction, of course, with dealing with the money revenue and the subsidies, right, for the entrepreneurs. And it can be offered in many forms or grant the companies that employ persons with disabilities. At least we should give some as incentives to the companies. And here, through the legislation, we offer some that with some formula, right? Since you hire a person with disabilities, we can multiply by that. We offer the benefits, right? You don't have it for the tax reduction, and also to incentive by recognizing and award best practices to as the model to the society. And here, every year we host the International Disability Day, and we award the companies that hire persons with disabilities. We have many tiers, right? Like the gold, silver, bronze, and the gold medal. And so like last year, we awarded more than 160 companies who hire persons with disabilities according to the set of the dedicated numbers or the duration that they hire a person with disabilities. Of course, we need the retainment of disabled employees, and or to provide accessible accommodations. Just now we talk about the RA, right? Reasonable accommodations or accessible environment. This can turn to be, they need require recognition. And capacity building and support services. It can be in a form of establish the job placement or center. The person with disabilities need to be equipped and to be empowered, to be ready for the private sectors as well. And we also have a number of vocational training centers and to support, to be ready for the labor market and to be competitive, right, to other non-disabled. And of course, just now we talk about accessibility environment. We should facilitate them to offer the audit system so that it can be in a form of consultant or any type of the facilitating the companies to do the auditing themselves even. And the fourth one is that just now you talk about the partnership, right? Of course, we need the collaboration and also with the awareness. We should have the PPP, right? Public-private partnerships, like everyone, like all of you talk about this, so I'm not going to repeat that. And we should do the awareness raising. This is also important to give as a model to the society. And last but not least, to monitoring and accountability. We have the legislation. Of course, implementation need to be monitored just to keep them everything in place. We should collect data and the outcome of this is to ensure the transparent reporting and to don't forget to provide grievance mechanism for workers with disabilities to protect their rights. I think these are the mechanisms that government can support the private sectors. Thank you.
Thanks so much. It doesn't look like you're bored at work, right? A lot to do also from the government perspective. Thanks so much. Now, if my math is correct, I would have to ask the speakers now to reduce a little bit their speaking time. So I would ask you really to stick to 3 minutes. You said it yourself, Saowalak, but yes, please stick to 3 minutes. In the second round of questions, because I'm asking you to shorten a little bit your answer time, because I would really love to hear 2-3 questions from the audience, because that would be really important part, I think, of our panel as well. So, Saowalak, coming back to you. So we have just heard from Apple what governments can do, or especially the case here in Thailand. So now another business entity, so to say, are of course organizations of persons with disabilities, and you are representing a regional one here. And so how can OPD, Organization of Persons with Disability, best support companies in protecting and promoting the rights of persons with disabilities?
Yeah. Okay, since I have only 3 minutes, I would provide only talking points. Okay, the first, OPD, I suggest OPD to register for being a member of the ILO Global Business and Disability Network, to learn from the network and member of network, and also the company and entrepreneur itself should be a member and adopt the 10 principles and charters. And also I would like to introduce some of the equipment adopted by ILO several years ago to promote disability inclusive workplaces. First one is ILO Code of Practice, Managing Disability in Workplaces. An ILO practical guide to implement job task analysis, job crafting, and also low or no cost accommodations policy, and also how to make, the equipment, the materials to guide the company how to make digital accessible. For instance, how to apply WCAG in in producing digital document, and to provide friendly digital environments, and also build capacity of organizations of persons with disability, and also build capacity and understanding of the entrepreneur and business firms by, delivers disability equality training. DET is one of the ILO, one of ILO module to promote employability for persons with disability and disability in inclusive workplace. And also in terms of building capacity of organizations of persons with disability, it could be like partnership between government, among government, business, and OPD, or include trade union. And best practices from the global business and disability network should be, deliver to be like lesson learned for both OPD and business, including the government. And the meaningful participations of OPD is very important, because organizations of persons with disability being live expertise and experience. It's not that any manual can replicate. So inviting OPD to walk, for instance, the sites or in your workplace, and do barrier spotting walk-through entrances, signage, bathroom, evacuation routes, or digital touch points. You pair this with the user and testing, you can get, a lot of, input and the guideline how to develop more accessible and friendly workplace. And also the company, in terms of providing reasonable accommodation, I have learned from my direct experience and my life experience, many companies really appreciate to provide reasonable accommodations and install accessibility feature. But the challenge is they don't know who to call for help and how to do it, for the technical support. So organization of person with disability can maintain, for instance, if the company or entrepreneur need sign language interpreters, organization of person with disability can provide it, or even real-time captioners, job coaches, or assistive technology vendor. And also disability inclusive procurement, it is important, because adoptions of the disability inclusive procurement should not only, be implemented at the headquarters only, but it is also in any workplace, in company's location. to embed the requirements into supplier code of conduct, okay, and work with trade union and as a public partnership, okay, and multilateral and regional partner like ILO, ESCAP, and ASEAN, yeah, etc.
Great, Saowalak.
The last one, best practices, Yeah.
Thanks for almost sticking to the 3 minutes, but all the messages are, of course, very important. And it sounded like you applied for a job in the ILO, so thanks so much for mentioning all the...
I have an experience working in this field,
great.
In 2007 into 2010.
Super. Thank you. I was over.
This work for, Accor Group.
Super, thank you. No, and thanks for listing all the technical. And maybe just to add a little bit, and I know we're running out short of time, but I think one important message, because the lived experiences that nobody else can have, they're so important. That's such a key message. And Krishna mentioned we had, as a Global Business and Disability Network, just 3 days ago, our regional conference, Asia Pacific, in Singapore. And one key message was also there, when companies build a culture of trust and enable already employed people with disabilities, so employees with disabilities, to come forward and self-identify. It's so important to listen to employees with disabilities, typically through employee resource groups on disability. What do you need? What do you need as employee with disability or employee with dependent with disability to thrive in the workplace and bring your most productive self to work? So listening to the lived experiences and the needs and how to address them is such an important message. So I took almost 3 minutes to add through what you said, but I think it's so important, the lived experience, and nothing about us without us. Now, so Carrie, back to you. So you're representing, of course, a major multinational enterprise. So now, for those listening in, as company representatives listening to you, what would you tell them if they just now say, look, okay, we have never really fully thought about disability. What would be your key recommendations for such a company to start their disability inclusion journey? Recognize we're all in a journey, but what are the key recommendations to start? And 3 minutes to answer that easy question. Thanks.
Yes, I think the first thing is ask them to call me. Yes, so we have experience in this, and just as first thing first would be, I would just very quickly go through this, is that they need to have an executive support. It has to come from the top, because otherwise the chain reaction, the systemic change will not happen. Okay, so two things there. One, to get us executive support, and the other one, what do you do after that? So I'm not going to talk, so much about getting that support. So assuming right now, like what Jürgen say, yes, we want to do something about it. We didn't know about it. Now we want to know how do we get about. Then we at least on our side, from Atos side, we do offer advisory services, so we can help people assess where they are right now. So what we call maturity assessment. So different companies may have different journeys, different stages of priorities, because they are businesses, right? So they need to profit, need to do some stuff. And based on their priorities, what is their roadmap, and also that is something we can advise them. So I just take Atos, for example. On our side, what we do is, I would say the culture there is that we treat exclusion like pollution. So why am I saying this? Because at Atos, we offer sustainability services as well. So it's green for IT and IT for green. And on that front, it ties to our culture. Things that we directly create, we need to create something really accessible, right? And if we procure something, that's where accessible procurement comes from. And this is actually one of the things that we do. It's very interesting. We check we don't simply buy things from suppliers, right? I mean, we got a new supplier, and we check how is their journey in accessibility. And if they're not really good in that, we highlight to them, and we also tell them we can help you. Not that we don't want to buy from you, but we can also help you in this journey. So there are some key things around there. And this systemic change and all, like I mentioned earlier about marketing and all, it has to come from on top, because with the executive support, you will then be able to have somebody, you need to have also an accessibility, a global head of accessibility, for example. Like I report to the global head of accessibility at Atos. His name is Neil Malikan, and he set up a team. So I'm based in Switzerland. We've got colleagues in America, in Germany, in India, so who covers APAC. So different regions and all, and with that we try to, we change things differently. Like we go to the marketing team and we say, okay, you need to use the font size a certain minimum font size, certain kind of contrast, these kind of guidelines, easy language. They didn't know before, and we give it to them very easy guidelines as well, so they can easily also adopt it. And then Jürgen mentioned also employee resource group, and also I was the global chair of the employees resource group for our disability inclusion. So we actually have a very big network there, and sometimes it's just peer. People may not want to tell everything to their boss, oh, I don't have this and that, but they can tell their friends. And actually, even personally, I tell all our new joiners, if you cannot, you're stuck somewhere, you just let me know. I don't have all the answers for you, but I at least can tell you, whom to talk to. And these kind of things, they are very important. It's kind of a friendly way of working as well. One of the other things that we do is also mentorship and reverse mentorship. So we get somebody more junior, for example, who mentors a more senior person, because most of the time, people holding very senior positions, they have very great mandate. I mean, they're hired to do great stuff. And then you get somebody who tell them also on the side, oh, I think it would be better, respecting the objectives of that person as well, what they need to do, that if you do something here, it can improve your entire team, productivity and things like that, then they will listen, right? Because they have managed to answer the question, what's in it for me? And I think on this note, normally people who were not aware of it before, what I am aware of our mentorship program has always come up with something very positive. The senior person will always say, oh my, they're always very enlightened. And so therefore, get back down to these executive sponsorship things, right? When you have a leader pushing things and driving things at the executive level, it brings raise awareness on the HR side and on all the departments. So you also touch on identifying, right? Because not everybody wants to identify. So it's but you need to give a safe space for people. And this safe space can only be created by somebody who has a certain authority in the company. And therefore, starting with such things, it's how do you say, very important when you're somebody up there who says, yes, I'm going to have this team. Like, for example, in my team, all of us who join my team, we are all IAAP certified. Right? Everyone has to go through. So at least at the ground level, everyone has the same basics and able to be a sort of ambassador and to help all the other people out as well, because we cannot always say and just throw it back to the business in that sense. Of course, on our side, we also sell it as a business, right? We do accessibility testing, and like what Ms. Saowalak said as well, we also have empaneled, we empaneled teams, for example, so that they could test certain software and websites or so. We, as much as we can, use people with lived experience. So it's not just automated testing because we're digital, but there's also the manual testing and then also testing with people with lived experience. So there are these things like that. When you, I think Atos is also a bit special because we do accessibility for our own employees, and we also help our clients on that front. And it's very, very rounded, let's say. So that's why I think, like, I get back to my first statement, if any company or anybody wants to do something like that, contact us. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks a lot, Carrie. And also feel free to contact SSCILO and make also more introductions. Now, I see that the time of the session is almost up. I think we can go about 10 minutes over time because we started a little bit later. But reminder, please, to stick to ideally now even less than 3 minutes. So, Krishna, I mentioned the regional conference of the GBDN in Singapore, and just before the regional conference, we had a small technical workshop for the national business and disability networks, of which you represent one, in the Asia-Pacific region. So these national networks do something similar to what we do at global level, bringing companies together, learn from each other, inspire. And so what were your key takeaways from this technical workshop of National Business and Disability Networks, and what would be your recommendations for initiatives in countries, relevant initiatives in countries where these National Business and Disability Networks do not yet exist?
Thank you, Jürgen. Okay, I'll try to do it in 2 minutes. Okay, wish me luck here. I think it's good for business. That's the main key message I got from the conference. Good for business in multiple ways. Like Ms. Apple said, if you work with the government, you get tax subsidies or, just subsidies in general, tax breaks, right? At the same time, you also realize your latent demand in the business. And what does that mean? you can use the Global Compact or the Business and Disability Network as a marketing platform to increase your bottom line. And I don't want to be too blatant about that, but you know, for example, when we go out to conferences, you get people like me at the Global Compact or the Business and Disability Network to become your brand ambassadors. We listen to Carrie, right? Atos does so many beautiful things, and the latent demand is that is actually converting into, you know, free marketing. Right, so mainstreaming, I mentioned it before, and when I answered the first question as well, what's a takeaway? And I think taking that mainstreaming and not only doing what's right, but actually being kind of a guiding light for other companies there as well. Again, I'm not going to say it too many times, but partnerships boils down to that. Mentorships is another thing that Carrie mentioned. I think more and more of teaching and learning, what we already do at the Global Compact, with the sustainability initiatives that we are active with, but mentorship is also a huge part of the puzzle that I think will solve this problem once and for all. I just got 15 more seconds. My next session is at 1:45 in meeting room A, the Global Compact session. So come there to learn more about not only disability, but business and human rights in general. We have Ms. Ting Ting from ESCAP speaking there from the disability lens. And yeah, I'm at 2 minutes. Thank you so much, Jürgen, but I hope I was able to answer your question.
Thanks so much, Krishna, and good marketing skills there for sure. So join in for the next session also. Apple, so the last question goes to you, and we can look a little bit forward into the future. Let's say we meet again here in Bangkok at the Business and Human Rights Forum in 5 years from now. What do you want? So it's a bit of a wish list, so to say. What do you want the Thailand labor market to look like in 5 years from now, and what would need to change for this dream?
Okay, thank you. I have 3 minutes, then I have 3 things that I want to see. First is about the inclusive, accessible, of course, and open is aligned with the CRPD. Persons with disabilities are fully representative in all sectors, not only in low-skilled jobs, but also in the professional manager and entrepreneurial role. Okay, and workplace is the requirement is universally accessible physically, digitally, and socially. 2, equitable opportunities. Of course, employment is person with disabilities is seen not a charity, but it's part of mainstream workforce development. And the worker with disabilities also enjoy the same rights, career progression, and social protection as others. The last thing is that skills the adaptive workforce. Persons with disabilities benefit from lifelong learning, digital upskilling, and vocational training aligned with the needs with the evolving economy. So this needs to be done like with the legislation enforcement, with the employment engagement, employer engagement, with the educational and training re-inform, right? And also with the accessible infrastructure and of course technology that we often talk about. And the last thing is that the culture and social change. So I want to see, most importantly, inclusive is no longer the norm. And it's the norm, but no longer is an exception. And also the Thai labor market value the skills of persons with disabilities, and also with barriers are removed with the full participation, and last but not least, with the equal contributor of the national development and the to participate in the empowerment, economic empowerment, of course, to pay the tax revenue as well as other people. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much. Thanks so much, Apple. Now, we're almost now already at the end of the extended time, so to say. So I will actually not provide closing remarks, but I would like to invite Pichamon, Yeophantong, the chairperson of the UN Working Group on Business and Human Rights, who made this session also possible. Thank you for your personal commitment to this inclusion, to deliver a few remarks at the end of this session. Please come, and we're happy to listen to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. you so much to our speakers for joining us today. I am an Asian female with brown hair that is tied up, and I am wearing a navy blue blazer and a white shirt. Friends and colleagues, firstly, thank you again to ILO's Global Business and Disability Network and our esteemed speakers today for joining the RBHR Forum. I'd also like to congratulate the network on organizing a successful regional conference for Asia and the Pacific this week in Singapore, which I still have FOMO about for not having been able to join in person. The UN Working Group is pleased to join forces with the ILO and UNESCAP for this very important session. For me, the topic of discussion today matters not only from the working group's perspective, but also it is personal. I am neurodivergent and proud to be so. This means this issue is not abstract, but one that is close to my own heart. I know that people thrive only when barriers fall and inclusion is made real. But I also know that when stigma or prejudice persists, opportunities are denied and rights are undermined. As many colleagues in this room will know, the Guiding Principles on Business and Human Rights, or UNGPs, give us the authoritative framework to address many of these challenges. They make three things clear. First, states have a duty to protect against business-related human rights abuses. This includes the discrimination and labor exploitation that persons with disabilities may be especially at risk of. Second, businesses have a responsibility to respect human rights, not just in their own workplaces, but across their value chains. And third, when harms occur, access to remedy must be available and effective. As Jürgen mentioned earlier, I understand that the ILO GBDN is focused on doing good to strengthen the rights of persons with disability, which is extremely valuable and definitely a commendable goal. Like two sides of the same coin, the UNGPs approached this from a perspective that doing good cannot, however, offset the human rights harms that a business may cause, contribute to, or be linked with. A business may champion inclusion through one initiative, but if discrimination persists elsewhere in its operations or let's say we see forced labor of persons with disabilities, if that were to exist in its value chains, then human rights are still being abused. This fact doesn't change. The corporate responsibility to respect human rights means preventing and addressing actual and potential human rights harms. Compensating for harms after the fact, while necessary, would be insufficient on this view. This is where human rights due diligence is essential. Disability rights must be embedded in due diligence processes, identifying risks, addressing structural barriers, and tackling prejudices that too often remain invisible. This means engaging directly with persons with disabilities and their representative organizations, listening to their lived experiences, ensuring accessibility, and making reasonable accommodation an integral part of workplace policies and practices. The Asia-Pacific region presents particular challenges, as we've already heard: fast-changing labor markets, the rise of digital technologies, and the persistence of informal work. But it also offers opportunities. If we align these transformations that are underway with the guiding principles, we can ensure that they are built on accessibility and equality rather than on reproduction of exclusion. Access to effective remedies, I would add, is another critical pillar here. Too often, persons with disabilities who experience discrimination or exclusion have nowhere to turn. Remedy mechanisms, whether judicial or non-judicial, must be accessible, affordable, and designed in consultation with persons with disabilities themselves, because without remedy, rights will invariably be hollow. It goes without saying that governments must play a key role here as duty bearers, including by strengthening policies and enforcement to create a rights-respecting environment for businesses to operate within. Alongside spearheading inclusive and accessibility programs, businesses too must commit to robust human rights due diligence that explicitly addresses disability rights, and all of us must work together to build effective avenues for remedy. As Carrie noted in her eloquent remarks, respecting disability rights is a human rights imperative and also makes good business sense. Evidence shows that inclusion drives productivity, sparks innovation, and benefits societies as a whole. But more than that, it affirms dignity, equality, and justice, the values that must underpin the world of work in the Asia-Pacific and beyond. So together, partnership and innovation, I cannot agree more, are needed to ensure that the future of work is one where every person can participate fully, contribute meaningfully, and live with dignity. Thank you very much again, and it is a real pleasure to have all of you here at the forum.
Thanks so much, Pichamon. As always, very clear, very powerful messages. Thanks so much. I had promised that you would be able to ask questions. I will deliver on the promise, but not here in the room. Find the panelists, find Pichamon, find myself somewhere in the hallways, and I think they will be happy to be approached by you. And remember, Krishna is leading a session now in conference room A, where we'll hear even a bit more about disability. So thanks so much.